For decades, psychologists have studied attention, attraction, memory, curiosity, and emotional connection. What they discovered reveals a fascinating truth. The human brain is not naturally drawn to what is obvious. It is drawn to what feels meaningful, emotionally powerful, and psychologically unfinished. This is why certain people can occupy space inside someone's mind without actively trying to. They create a reaction that continues long after the interaction ends. And the most interesting part is that many of these behaviors are completely misunderstood by the average person. Some of the qualities that make people memorable are actually the opposite of what most people think they should do. Throughout this video, you will discover why mystery is often more powerful than constant attention, why emotional impact leaves deeper memories than appearance, why people become fascinated by individuals who seem comfortable with themselves, and how small psychological triggers can quietly increase someone's presence in another person's mind. You will also learn several lesser-known principles of human behavior that explain why certain individuals naturally attract attention without chasing it. These are not manipulation tactics. They are psychological patterns that influence how people perceive value, connection, and attraction. And make sure you stay until the end because the final principle is often the most powerful of all. It explains why some people remain unforgettable for years while others are forgotten within days. Once you understand this concept, you may start seeing social interactions in a completely different way. It can change how you think about attraction, relationships, confidence, and even your own behavior. So if you are curious about the hidden psychology behind fascination, attention, and why some people become impossible to forget, then you are in the right place. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy exploring psychology, human behavior, self-improvement, and the hidden forces that shape the way people think and act, make sure to subscribe and join us for more videos. Now, let's uncover why people become obsessed with someone without even knowing why. One of the biggest misunderstandings about attraction is the belief that people become obsessed because of beauty, status, or constant attention. Most people spend years trying to improve those things. They think the secret is becoming more attractive, more successful, more popular, or more noticeable. They believe that if enough people admire them, then they will automatically become unforgettable. But real life tells a different story. Every day, incredibly attractive people are ignored. Highly successful people are forgotten. Loud people who constantly demand attention often leave very little lasting impact. At the same time, there are ordinary individuals who somehow remain in people's minds long after the interaction is over. Their influence feels difficult to explain. Nothing about them seems extreme. Nothing about them seems obvious, yet people continue thinking about them. The reason is hidden inside the way the human mind works. The brain is always searching for patterns, answers, and meaning. When something feels complete, the mind moves on. When something feels unfinished, the mind stays attached. This is why an unanswered question can bother someone all day. This is why unfinished stories are hard to forget. This is why people often remember the last missing piece of information more than all the information they already have. The mind naturally wants closure. It wants to fill gaps. It wants answers. When those answers are missing, attention remains active. Many people believe obsession begins with attraction. In reality, obsession often begins with curiosity. Curiosity creates attention. Attention creates focus. Focus creates emotional investment. Emotional investment creates attachment. By the time someone realizes they are thinking about a person repeatedly, the process has often been happening for much longer than they realize. This is why people rarely obsess over what is completely understood. Once everything feels predictable and fully explained, the brain relaxes. There is no puzzle left to solve. There is no mystery left to explore. There is no reason to keep returning mentally to the same person. But when somebody leaves questions unanswered, not intentionally but naturally, they create space for curiosity to grow. The mind starts revisiting interactions, It starts replaying conversations. It starts wondering about meaning. That mental activity becomes surprisingly powerful. What feels like attraction on the surface is often curiosity working underneath. The people who become unforgettable understand this without even realizing it. One reason they become memorable is because they do not reveal everything at once. Most people feel pressure to explain themselves immediately. They want approval quickly. They want others to like them as soon as possible. So they tell every story, share every opinion, reveal every detail, and explain every part of their personality within a short period of time. Their entire identity becomes available all at once. There is nothing left to discover. The brain processes the information and moves forward. But some people operate differently. They are not trying to create mystery. They are not playing games. They are simply comfortable with themselves. They do not rush to prove who they are. They allow conversations to unfold naturally. They allow people to discover them over time. This creates a powerful effect. Human beings are naturally curious. Curiosity is one of the strongest forces behind attention. When there is more to learn, the mind stays engaged. When there are layers to uncover, interest continues. Think about the difference between reading a book that reveals every secret in the first chapter and reading a book that slowly reveals deeper truths over time. One creates temporary attention. The other creates lasting engagement. People work in a similar way. When someone reveals every thought immediately, the brain closes the file. When someone has depth that unfolds gradually, the brain keeps returning. The important detail is that memorable people are not hiding. Many people misunderstand this idea and think they need to become secretive. That is not the point. Being secretive often creates distance rather than attraction. The real difference is that unforgettable people do not perform. They do not feel the need to constantly explain themselves. They are comfortable leaving a little space. They are comfortable allowing silence to exist. They are comfortable letting people form their own observations. That comfort creates curiosity because it feels genuine rather than forced. Curiosity becomes even stronger when it is connected to emotion. Most interactions are easy to forget because they produce very little emotional impact. The conversations are predictable, the reactions are predictable, the energy is predictable. One interaction blends into the next until everything starts feeling the same. The brain is exposed to thousands of ordinary moments every week. Most of them disappear because they create no emotional signal strong enough to stand out. Information alone is rarely enough to become memorable. Emotion is what gives information weight. This is why people often remember how someone made them feel long after they forget the details of what was said. A person becomes memorable when they create emotional contrast. Maybe they make someone laugh when everyone else is serious. Maybe they offer a perspective that changes the way somebody sees a problem. Maybe they make another person feel understood at a moment when nobody else was paying attention. Maybe they challenge an idea in a way that sparks reflection. These moments create emotional movement, and emotional movement leaves traces inside memory. The brain is designed to pay attention to emotional experiences because emotions signal importance. If an event creates a strong feeling, the brain assumes the event matters. As a result, it stores the memory more carefully. This is why emotionally powerful experiences often feel vivid years later. The emotional component acts like a marker. It tells the brain to remember. In social situations, the same process occurs. People who create emotional experiences become easier to remember because the brain attaches significance to the interaction. Many individuals spend enormous energy trying to appear impressive. They focus on being admired rather than being felt. But admiration is often weaker than emotional connection. Someone may admire a person's appearance for a few moments and then move on. Emotional impact works differently. Emotional impact creates memory. Emotional impact creates reflection. Emotional impact creates repetition inside the mind. That repetition is what eventually makes someone unforgettable. Another characteristic shared by people who attract lasting attention is that they have a life outside of other people. This sounds simple, but it is surprisingly rare. Many individuals become completely consumed by the people they want to impress. Their thoughts revolve around gaining approval. Their decisions revolve around receiving attention. Their happiness becomes dependent on another person's response. Ironically, this usually weakens attraction rather than strengthening it. Human beings are naturally drawn toward people who appear engaged with life. Goals create energy, passions create depth, purpose creates direction, independence creates stability. When someone is actively building their own life, they radiate a sense of movement. They are not standing still, waiting for validation. They are moving towards something meaningful. That energy becomes attractive because it signals self-respect and personal investment. A person with a full life interacts differently. They listen differently. They speak differently. They make decisions differently. Their attention feels valuable because it is not their only resource. They are not desperate to hold on to every interaction. They are not trying to force every connection into something larger. As a result, their presence feels lighter and more authentic. People often interpret this as confidence, but the deeper cause is usually purpose. When someone lacks purpose, they often seek fulfillment entirely through other people. This creates pressure. Every interaction begins carrying expectations. Every conversation becomes a test. Every response feels deeply important. Others can sense this pressure even when it is never spoken aloud. Pressure creates discomfort. Comfort creates attraction. This is one reason why genuine independence often feels magnetic. It removes pressure from the interaction. There is another psychological principle that explains why certain people remain fascinating. The human brain pays special attention to things that are slightly unpredictable. Complete chaos creates stress. Complete certainty creates boredom. But somewhere in the middle exists curiosity. The brain becomes highly alert when outcomes are uncertain enough to be interesting, but not so uncertain that they become threatening. This principle influences many areas of life. Consider how difficult it can be to stop checking for updates when the timing of those updates is unpredictable. The uncertainty itself creates anticipation. The mind stays engaged because it does not know exactly what will happen next. Human attention often works in a similar way. When everything about a person is perfectly predictable, the mind relaxes. When there is some uncertainty, attention increases. This does not mean playing games. It does not mean creating confusion. It does not mean deliberately manipulating emotions. The point is much simpler. Human beings are naturally curious about what they cannot fully predict. People who are deeply engaged in their own lives often become slightly unpredictable without trying. They pursue interests, they explore ideas, they continue growing because they are focused on their own development. They do not behave according to a script designed to please everyone. That authenticity creates variation, and variation creates curiosity. At the same time, some of the most unforgettable people possess a quality that is often overlooked entirely. They make others feel seen. In a world where many people are focused on talking, very few are focused on understanding. Most conversations involve waiting for a turn to speak. Most interactions involve presenting an image. Real attention has become surprisingly rare. Because it is rare, it becomes valuable. People remember those who genuinely listen. They remember those who notice details. They remember those who ask thoughtful questions. They remember those who make them feel understood. This effect is powerful because being understood satisfies a deep human need. Everyone wants to feel recognized. Everyone wants to feel that their experiences matter. When someone provides that feeling, the emotional impact can be significant. Many people try to become interesting. Few people focus on making others feel interesting, yet the second approach often leaves a stronger impression. Someone who remembers a small detail from a previous conversation communicates attention. Someone who notices a change in mood communicates awareness. Someone who listens carefully communicates respect. These behaviors may seem small, but their psychological impact can be enormous. As attention deepens, another factor becomes important. The people who leave the strongest impressions usually do not chase validation. This is where many individuals accidentally undermine their own presence. They seek constant reassurance. They seek constant approval. They seek confirmation that they are liked, valued, or accepted. The more desperately they seek it, the less valuable their attention begins to feel. Neediness removes mystery. Neediness removes confidence. Neediness removes emotional tension. When someone constantly asks for validation, they communicate uncertainty about their own value. Others begin responding to that uncertainty. By contrast, people who are comfortable with themselves do not require constant reassurance. Their sense of worth is not dependent on every reaction around them. This creates a different dynamic. Their attention feels meaningful because it is offered freely rather than requested desperately in return. Their presence feels calm because it is not driven by anxiety. Their interactions feel genuine because they are not constantly searching for approval. As a result, people often perceive them as more attractive, more confident, and more memorable. And while most people continue searching for tricks, techniques, and shortcuts, the deeper reality remains surprisingly simple. The individuals who stay in people's minds are often the ones who create curiosity, emotional impact, purpose, authenticity, attention, and self-respect without forcing any of it. Their influence grows quietly, one interaction at a time, often long before anyone realizes what is happening. At the end of the day, the people who leave the deepest mark on others are usually not the people who tried the hardest to be remembered. They are not constantly chasing attention. They are not forcing attraction. They are not spending every moment trying to impress everyone around them. Instead, they understand something that most people never fully realize. Human beings remember feelings more than facts. They remember how someone made them feel when they were around them. They remember the curiosity that was left unanswered. They remember the emotions that felt real. They remember the conversations that made them think long after they were over. That is why people do not become obsessed with you because you manipulated them. They do not become obsessed because you used a secret trick or followed a perfect formula. Real fascination works differently. It happens when you leave curiosity instead of oversharing. It happens when you create emotion instead of seeking approval. It happens when you have a meaningful life of your own. It happens when you make people feel seen, heard, and understood. And most importantly, it happens when you stop trying so hard to be unforgettable and simply become more comfortable being yourself. The irony is that the moment you stop chasing attention is often the moment your presence becomes more powerful. The moment you stop begging for validation is often the moment your attention becomes more valuable. The moment you stop performing for others is often the moment people start seeing the real depth that was there all along. So the next time you wonder why certain people seem impossible to forget, remember this: their power rarely comes from appearance, status, or popularity. It comes from the experience they create. It comes from the emotions they leave behind. It comes from the feeling that there is always a little more to discover. Because the people who stay in your mind the longest are rarely the people who demanded attention. They're the people whose presence made attention happen naturally. If you enjoyed this psychology breakdown and learned something valuable today, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos on human behavior, attraction, confidence, self-mastery, and the hidden psychology behind everyday life. Also, leave a like if you found this video helpful and share it with someone who would enjoy learning about the fascinating ways the human mind works. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.